Hello, 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 hello. How are you doing on today? I thank you for being here and I want to welcome you back to the channel. I hope that you are having an amazing day. I've been praying for you and lifting you up because you know what? We need one another. And I am so happy to be a support to you and to the family of God. So, blessings to each and every one of you, and welcome to each and every one of you that are on here on today. I'm going to get started, but before we do, you know how we do. I hope that you do us a really big favor by thumbing up the video. And if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and the bell notification so that you won't miss a video. And I just want to welcome any one of you that are new to the channel. Hopefully you will stay and be a part of the family of God right here on KPTV 6280. Today we're going to go ahead and jump into our topic of discussion. We're going to be talking about loneliness and what it is and how we can handle it as the believer. So we can stop it, but what do we have to do to stop the loneliness? We live in a time where people are more connected through social media than never before. And yet, loneliness is running rampant throughout all age groups. It is very easy to feel lonely, even when we are surrounded by people both online and in our own lives. And we're not the only ones who will feel this way from time to time. Mother Teresa once said, "The greatest disease in the West today is not TB or leprosy. It is feeling unwanted, unloved, and uncared for. We can cure physical diseases with medicines, but the only cure for loneliness and despair and hopelessness is love." In this video, we're going to talk about how to cure loneliness, especially if you are a believer. We'll begin by asking the question, is it normal to feel lonely? Is it normal for Christians to feel lonely? Now, I want to talk about that because we live in a society where Christians don't want to face reality because they feel like, certain things is, a shame to have or to, even be battling with or dealing with. But I want us to be able to deal with real topics. We know that prayer changes things, but we still have to deal with things in life. And so we don't want to put down people that are the people who are going through things. So the question is it normal for Christians to feel lonely? And we're not talking about an overwhelming sense of loneliness on a regular basis. We're talking from time to time, or is it normal? Is it something that happened in Christendom? And I want to say, yes, it is. The answer is not only yes, but it is a resounding yes. Jesus felt lonely. He was in the Garden of Gethsemane and he wanted his disciples to be with him during that time, and yet they fell asleep. They kept falling asleep. And I'm pretty sure on the cross, Jesus felt like he was all alone. In fact, he said to the Father, "Father, why have you forsaken me?" And loneliness is feeling as though you are being forsaken or left out or excluded. Jesus' disciples deserted him. And there are times in Jesus' ministries that Jesus would leave the crowd and he would go away to be alone with the Father. He needed to be re-strengthened to do the ministry. So yes, I would say loneliness is something that we all will encounter as the believer. We also see King David, who had both friends and followers, but yet he still was feeling lonely. In the book of Psalms, chapter number 25, verse number 16, David prays, Turn to me and be gracious to me, for I am lonely and afflicted. And we also see Elijah, who was hiding in the cave in 1 King chapter number 19, and he was feeling lonely. God says, "What are you doing, Elijah?" And Elijah replies, "I have been zealous for you. Lord, I am the only one left." Elijah was feeling alone in the ministry. God is basically telling Elijah, "You are not alone. There are 7,000 others besides you who haven't bowed their knees to Baal." So, why does God allow loneliness? A more important question is, why does God allow loneliness in the life of the believer? Well, the answer to that question is simply that God does not micromanage our lives. In other words, He allows us to do the things that we want to do, and some of the things that we do leads to loneliness. And one of the things that leads to loneliness, especially in our day, is technology. It's a false sense of hope. Back in the day, way before we were born, people did not have televisions and radios, and loneliness most likely was not as visible or apparent as it is today, because they had to engage with one another. They had time to visit with one another and fellowship with one another. I believe that there are times in our lives that God will allow us to be in a season of isolation, which we are considered loneliness, but this is for Him wanting to do something in particular in our lives. With that being said, God does not want us to stay in a place of loneliness. The two greatest commandments are to love God and to love others. Both of these commandments speaks to relationships. God wants us to be close to Him, and He wants us to have healthy relationships with others. And He wants us to feel love as well. The more that we feel love, the less that we will feel alone. In order for you to have relationships with others, it is going to require you to have an effort. So that means that we have to do away with this quick fix society and learn how to go back to engaging and dealing with issues. So we're going to go ahead and talk about the cause of loneliness. What is causing my loneliness? Well, I could think of 4 different causes. Number 1, situational loneliness. The most obvious cause is that we don't have enough friends or family. Or perhaps we have enough friends and family members, but they're not close. You can also be with a group of people, and within the group, you're not close to the people that is inside of the groups that you're involved with. So those are called situational lonely situations, okay? Number 2, emotional loneliness. At other times, we do have friends and we do have family, but we don't feel like they love us. And this happens all too often with children who are very young. Point number 2, emotional loneliness. What is that? Well, this is simply when you have family members and friends, but you really don't feel that they love you. And this also happens in very young children. For some reason, they get on a kick that no one loves them and you cannot get them off of it. It also happens when you are in a small group, and in the group of people, you know that you think different from them, and you've seen them condemn others that was like you that thought different from them. Now, these people may still love you, but because you have a different viewpoint than them, you may not feel that they love you. And also, you can feel emotional loneliness when you see things that is happening on social media and people are being invited to things, but you're not invited. This is emotional loneliness. Point number 3, social Christian loneliness. Another type of Christian loneliness that we might experience is a social loneliness. If we're naturally shy, or if we're socially awkward, or if we have a low self esteem, we can look at all of those confident, outgoing people out there and we can think that we'll never be able to make friends. This can make us feel more lonely than ever because we don't feel like we have any hope. And because we're Christians, we can beat ourselves up over the head because of this, because we think that we should be better at this since we are Christians. Point number 4, spiritual Christian loneliness. As Christians, we have another opportunity for loneliness, and that's the loneliness in our relationship with God. If we're not feeling close to Him, that can make us feel more lonely than ever. So we've talked about the 4 different aspects of loneliness. In part 2 of this video, we're going to talk more in depth on how we could combat loneliness. If you are interested, please stay tuned for the next video. I'll see you guys later. Bye for now.